Hi friends, kind of a weird video today, videotaping my belly apparently. So I got put into Cub Scouts recently and my first assignment was marbles. So I was struggling to find something online to do with the Scouts for 4 weeks because it was a long month. And this is what I did by week. So if you're going to be doing Scout marbles with Scouts, here's what I did. So I found old marbles. You can ask people online if you can borrow them, if people have them. This one is made out of clay, and you can see it's got imperfections and was fired. And then this one is also, but was cobalt blue. So these are antiques. And we talked about the history of marbles and how every culture has used them. And then I showed them kind of a wooden one and why wooden ones are too light and they don't work very well. And that's why they made them out of clay and then out of glass. Now in the 1800s in Germany, they started blowing them. So, and making them out of blown glass. So these solid colored ones, you can see, hopefully, there's air bubbles in them. I don't know if you can see that. But they were first hand blown in Germany, and then in Akron, Ohio, they started making them out of glass into molds, and they started making molds with like 6, or I think the first one they had had 6 molds in it for marbles, and then they started to go from there. And then as they started to so here's a bag of older marbles. You can see they're all like solid colors, and then here's the newer ones. They kind of just swirl them all together. And then we talked about the shooters and the steelies and the different types and how different people would flick them and things like that. So the history of marbles was the first option. Now, I live in a small town and I had a really, really hard time. So we'll just put those over here somewhere. So I had a really hard time finding marbles. So I thought about going online and asking people, because I was needing them quickly. I went to every store in town. Walmart did not have them, and they're pretty expensive if you buy a bag of them from Walmart online. So I figured if worst came to worst, you could go to like the dollar store or a decorative supply store and buy just the glass different colored, solid colored ones, because they have these in blue and green and red. So there's an option. Also, I went to a secondhand store and found, so this whole container of these decorative ones was $2 in case I couldn't find any otherwise, or I didn't have time to get any. So that's just an option. Then I found this whole bag for $1 at a secondhand store and was happy about that. And I posted to some friends, and somebody dropped this bag off for free. So I was very grateful to be able to find those. However, weird enough, I found the actual bags for the boys for $1.50 at a grocery store, in the toy section at a grocery store, and they were actually on sale for $1.50 a bag, and they got 1 shooter and 25 marbles in the bag. So that was fabulous. So that was the first week for that. Then the next week, talk about pouches and what the history of pouches and what was held in pouches, and in the olden days how they used to hold coins in pouches on their hip, and if people thought they were rich, like if it would clink around, the money would clink around, and some people would put stones in there to make them think they were richer, and how Native Americans have their herbs, healing herbs and trinkets and things that valuables in their pouches, and how today we carry purses, and those are important. And so there's that. And let's see, I don't know, I'm trying to the best angle for these different activities. So I talk about in another video how to make these pouch bags. So we talked about marbles and why they were kept in pouches, and why they were so important in the early 1900s to the boys and girls that would play marbles, and how they would do different techniques to shoot. And so in that one also, you can get the history of terms. So we've got the different terms of what each different thing means, like knuckling down, or playing for keeps, or for just for fair, so you give it back at the end. So there's that, the history, and then why we use pouches and carry our valuables in pouches. And so then you can have them make a pouch. So watch my other video on how to make the pouches and drawstrings and have them sew those. Now the boys were fabulous. They did a great job and they loved that. They really loved it. So I would suggest you try and do that with them. The boys were really happy about that. Then when we were talking about the history of marbles, there were games. So I went and I bought this so that we could play. We talked about Chinese checkers. So obviously Chinese checkers. There's Mancala and American games, and all the other countries have different games. Marbles were in every culture pretty much. So we talked about that and games, and then they need to pass off making a game. So after they made their bags, we played a game of marbles, and I bought those little round chocolate candies from the dollar store that look like marbles, and we let them play marbles with chocolates, and they thought that was great. So each one of them had a shooter, and then they would they taught them different techniques. So they would bowl, and some of them thought that they could get more with that, but then some didn't. And then we talked about using your knuckle. My grandfather showed me how he used to do it like this and flick it pretty strongly. So anyway, we talked about the different techniques, and we let them play for chocolate today. And then they got to take the chocolates home along with their pouch with the marbles, and they had to create a game at home for all of us to play next week. And then they also need to do a maze, a marble maze. And then there's the racer, marble racer. So these patterns you can get online or in the scout books, or you can just make your own. That's kind of what it looks like. And then they can color them and decorate them. And then you put the marbles in there and tape these up here like this. And then the weight of the marble will carry it down. And so what I thought would be fun for our maze is I've been saving, I've got a huge bag over here of these. I've been saving them for a couple of months, and we're going to have them tape them together. I'll give them each the same amount of those and some other items to make theirself a maze, and then we're going to race the marbles through the maze, and then we'll have prizes at the end. So there's that option as well. Another one that I thought would be really fun would be to make their own marbles. Oh, so they can decorate that. You can have a contest for the nicest decoration too. But it seems like, you know, in the amount of time that you have, there's so much to get done that it's really hard to have. I'm like shoving it all in, even though we have, you know, a lot of weeks. Then cub meeting at the end also takes some time. So I didn't have enough time, but I thought if you bought some Fimo clay and let them make their own marbles, or if you made salt dough's not the best, but some kind of clay that would harden, and let them make their own marbles, I thought that would be a fabulous activity for them as well. So that was an idea that I had, but they loved the chocolate game. They thought it was absolutely great. So I sent them all home with chocolates and told them to play marbles with the chocolates and then share them with their siblings. And so that was a hit. So I thought those were the more fun ideas for marbles with Scouts. I have no sons. I am a mom of 5 girls. So for me, Scouts was like, whoa, I did Cub Master years ago, but I've never actually done one-on-one with the Scouts. I've just done group parties and things. And I'm great with those. So this was something new for me, but I wanted to share what I did and how I did it, because I looked online and I was struggling with the whole marble thing. I was like, why are we doing marbles? But the boys loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. So check out my other video on how to make the marble pouches. And you don't need to use them for marbles. You can use them for anything. But I came up with a way to use the button on the front that makes them really safe and good. And the boys learned sewing, and they really did a good job. I was really kind of shocked. I thought it might be over their head, but they did a super great job. So I have taken pictures, and I'm blogging all of this on my blog, thesecretisgratitude.com, and just type in marbles or Scouts at the bottom, and I'll have 1, maybe 2 posts on how and what I did. So I might do one just on the bag, pouch, just in general, how to make the pouch, and then one for Scouts and marbles, the different ideas that we have tried and done, and they loved it. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a very blessed day.